We're going to be talking about those two bad boys right there today. Two more full-size hammers for the channel, the M&P 2.0 core with the Holosun 507 V2 on it, and the Glock Gen 5 17 MOS with the Holosun 509T. Now, these are both the optics-ready offerings from Smith & Wesson and Glock. They do have some similarities, but they do have quite a few major differences as well. Now, the M&P specifically has a couple of different versions out already. One of them's already come out with full serrations up and down the front, where this one does not have them. There's the 5-inch model, the 4 1/4, the compact, and then there's the LE only, and there's one that comes with the suppressor height sights like this. So there are several different versions. This is just the one that I was able to get my hands on. As far as the Gen 5, they're all pretty basic, pretty specific, and all pretty much the same when it comes to the MOS system for that. Not a lot of big changes there. If you are new to the channel today, go ahead and subscribe and turn those bell notification icons on. And for everybody here, if at any point you feel that I've deserved it, definitely give the video a like and that big old thumbs up down below. Why are we talking about these two specifically today? These are both widely carried throughout the world, whether it's for work or for carry or just out there on the range. They're extremely popular. I get a ton of questions on both, and I've had a bunch of requests to review these two and do a comparison side by side. Even though there are a lot of similarities between the two, there are some really big differences, especially when it comes to texture, angles, all that stuff, and even the mounting platforms that are up there on top of that slide. But before we go any further, I'd like to thank the sponsor of the channel here today. Is going to be Shall Not Comply Clothing. You can see the swag I got on today. They take care of all the merchandise and stuff for the channel, and it's very cool of them to do that because there's no way I could keep up with doing all of that stuff. Johnny and Emily are absolutely great people over there, and they've given a coupon code for you guys of TAC10, so TAC10, to save you guys 10% on your entire order over there, whether it's my branded stuff or just everything else over at the SNC store. We're gonna go ahead and be about it and get into these and show you the specs and all these things. Of course, show a breakdown on them for that basic maintenance and kind of just go over the differences between the two if you are interested in either one. If at any point in time you are interested in anything you see here, I will leave links down below for what I can. If not, check that first link in the description. It'll take you off to my webpage or somewhere else where you can see all of that good stuff. And of course, check out the good stuff over at SNC. We're gonna go ahead and get into both of these things right now. All right, we're gonna go ahead and take a good walk around these two pistols right here, starting with the M&P 2.0 core. I kind of like the slide on there. You can see a little thing that's actually a little red dot. I thought that was pretty cool. So we'll go ahead and go over the basic specs, and then we'll kind of take a good walk around these two from magwell to muzzle like we always do here. So for the M&P 2.0, one thing, there are a couple different versions of this out. The newest version has front serrations all the way up. There's a law enforcement only version, there's a compact version, there's a 5-inch. This is the 4 1/4. So there are a couple different versions out now. This is just the one I was able to purchase a couple months back. So the M&P 2.0, this one comes with those suppressor height sights, 9mm, came with 3 17+1 mags right there. Overall length of 7.5, optics ready from the factory. Mine did come with the plates. I have heard some of the newer ones are not coming with the optics mounting plates, however, mine did. Again, that barrel on this one is 4 1/4. Those sights are night sights. Obviously, it is polymer striker fired. You guys understand that, I am sure. And we're coming in at a weight of 26.9 ounces. Stainless steel slide with their Armonite finish is what they call it. It's solid finish, good stuff, and then obviously a polymer frame right there. Let's go ahead and go over and tackle the basic specs on the 17 MOS right here, the Gen 5 Glock. So this is the full-size grip. This one came with 3 17-round mags as well. We do have a 4 1/2 or 4.49-inch barrel to make 100% sure. Yeah, 4.49 inches. Obviously, striker fired as well. With a loaded magazine, it weighs 33.3 ounces. It's got an overall length of 7.9 inches, a slide length of 7.32, overall width of 1.34, and then of course a total slide width, because the slide is a little bit more narrow, of 1 inch exactly on there. The height of this one overall is going to be 5.4 inches. So there are a little bit more specs available on the Glock from their website, whereas the M&P, it's not listed on Smith & Wesson's website. So I'm reading you directly that stuff off the website. Now let's go ahead and take a good solid walk around both of these, getting back to that M&P. So mag welded muzzle, like we always do. Like I said, we're going to get 3 of those 17 round magazines. They are steel, which is quite nice because those mags fly out of there, unlike some of the polymer stuff. Coming up from there, you got a nice little lip kind of right there. You can see at the base, it really does get a hold of your pinky, and then you have your little tool that comes out right there that you can use for disassembly. You do have the interchangeable back straps. I do believe there's 4 of them in there. I've just got the small one on there because that just seems to be the one that that works for me, is that small one. So the texture on the M&Ps has always been great, very much like sandpaper, just absolutely a great texture. Moving up forward, that texture does carry on to the magazine release that you can see right there that is single-sided. Coming up and forward, yeah, it's kind of nicely narrowed in there, so you're able to get your palm up in there. That little divot is not for your thumb to go in, that's for your palm to rest in, just so you guys are aware. Moving forward from there, pretty standard looking trigger guard, although I do, for some odd reason on these trigger guards, I always end up slipping forward like that because they're just a little bit shorter than a lot of other striker fired stuff. Not much going on as far as a deep undercut right there, but it is what it is. Moving forward on the frame right here, you're going to have your slide stop, slide release. That is ambi, so it's on both sides. Then you're going to have your takedown lever right there. Moving forward, you do have a multi-section pick rail up there, and you do have some kind of holes right there in the frame that are actually fairly good for referencing right there. You can get your finger down in there, so not bad overall. Obviously very similar on the opposite side. Nothing you're going to see over here that you won't see there. We'll come back to the trigger in just a moment. Coming forward up to the top right there, you can see we have some nice kind of fish scale serrations right there. Very nice, very neatly cut in there, and they are plenty of grip to get your hand onto. Moving forward, you're going to have all your typical logos, your M&P, your 9 core. Like I said, it's a little red dot right there. It's actually pretty cool. It's made to look like the red dot. I thought that was interesting. Coming forward, you do have serrations right there. The newest version I saw does have serrations all the way up, which is pretty nice. It is chamfered down in the nose, but very blocky and square towards the front. Coming over to the opposite side, pretty much a mirror image minus the extractor right there. Obviously the barrel on the top, you can see it does have that loaded chamber indicator right there, or viewport, not indicator, so you can see down there. You'd be able to see brass or whatever color your ammo is. Coming forward on that slide, it's nicely kind of bevel cut up in there, so it's a little bit thinner right up in there, as you can see. And then it does have a nicely kind of radiused chamfer right there to the top of the slide. Again, those are going to be the Trijicon night sights, white dot front and rear. Not bad at all. Good stuff that the way that it comes. So let's go ahead and talk about overall the Gen 519, and then we'll go ahead and break both of these down so you can kind of see how that works. So the Gen 519, you're going to get 3 of the Gen 5 style mags with the orange followers. Again, going from mag welded muzzle, okay, right on the bottom of this, you can see that it is nicely flared, you know, all the way around except for the back where it kind of shelves off. So it's got a great area right there where your pinky can get onto and just get a solid hold of that grip. And then it does have that integrated mag well, as you can see. You know, it's nicely flared just all the way around, which is a definite plus. Coming up from there, its grip texture as usual from Glock. It's not the best grip texture on Glocks, but it's usable. Coming up, you got your swappable magazine release right there. Coming forward, standard Glock trigger guard, and then you still only have the single section accessory rail up here, but it is wide enough for the pick-sized lights to go on now, so you don't have to keep changing a little insert in there when you move your light from setup to setup. Going forward to that, it is Glock as usual. So your magazine release is swappable coming up. Your slide stop slide release is ambi right there, which is definitely nice if you are wrong-handed or left-handed. So moving up into the slide, we've got our good rear serrations that are very typical of Glock. It does come with your MOS mounting plates. However, I have an aftermarket C&H precision plate in there for the 509, and the C&H plates are just far better than the factory plates on the Glock. Moving forward, all your typical logos, as you can see right there, you do have nice front serrations, rounded as usual, and up on the nose, it's kind of bull nose down, which is very nice from Glock. And I've just got the factory plastic sights on this bad boy right now. Everything else is going to be mirror image, obviously, on the side. Got your typical extractor, typical Glock marksman barrel for the Gen 5. Nothing really spectacular. It is Glock as usual. Let's go ahead and talk about breakdown. Very simple on the Glock. Ensure that it is clear. You're going to pull the trigger, pull down on the tabs right here for your breakdown, your slide lock. Rock that slide forward, pull it apart. Very typical. Everything in here. There are full reviews of both of these with full breakdowns and everything. This is your battlefield strip for the Glock 17 Gen 5. We'll put this back together. If you don't know the differences between Gen 4 and Gen 5, there are some pretty decent trigger differences down in the trigger group and also in the striker block safety right there. You can check the reviews on these in depth if you are interested in that. So according to the factory, when it comes to breaking down the Smith & Wessons, there are two ways you can do it. The book says that you need to lock the slide to the rear and make sure that it's clear. Come down in here. You're going to see that little yellow tab in there. I know it's very tough to see. Get that camera to focus in the best I can for you. Right there. So that needs to be kicked down, which disconnects the sear. Okay. You flip your takedown lever and then the slide comes off. You can push this back up and that reconnects the sear, but you can just rack it back and ensure it's clear, and you can pull the trigger too, just like a Glock, and it does break down the same. So very similar breakdown procedure. Again, this would be your battlefield stripping, and this would be your basic cleaning here. Reassembly is going to be just the opposite. Make sure your spring is pointed the right way. And then you're going to put this Smith & Wesson back together, lock it back, flip the switch, and then ensure functions check. So those are the basic overall specs. Let's go ahead and talk about trigger pulls and everything. Bring in the trigger gauge here, and we'll talk about how these things feel and how they pull. Go ahead and get rid of the mags here. So these are both factory triggers. Nothing is changed in here. The M&P does have quite a different trigger in there. You can see the trigger is on a hinge. So it is quite a bit different. You got to really get your finger low to maximize how it pulls. A little bit gritty. You get a nice defined wall and then a pretty clean break. Your reset, because the way the trigger is designed, it's a little weird, so it kind of overextends, then you pull back, hit the wall again, and it breaks. So pretty good amount of take up there. Let's go ahead and do a couple of pull tests here, and we'll see what we're pulling at. Try and do these the best I can, because that trigger is funky to get onto. So right there, we're looking at about 4 pounds and 4 ounces, maybe 6 ounces. We'll just do a couple here and trying to get on the same place each time. So that's about 4 pounds and 2 ounces, or excuse me, 4 ounces that time again. We'll do 3. 3 is just a good number when it comes to trigger pulls. Okay. So that one right there, you can see pretty consistent, about 4 pounds and 6 ounces. Not bad at all, coming out of a stock setup for the M&P. All right, the Glock, I can tell you right now, does not quite feel as good as the M&P trigger, but we'll see what we get right here. Make sure that's all the way down. Keep slipping on this one because it's fairly new. Okay, so that first pull is going to be almost the same, so about 4 pounds and 6 ounces. And I do pull a little low on that trigger shoe. Okay, we've discussed this before. Leverage. You want to get as low as possible on that trigger to get the lightest pull weight you can. But I try and pull from the same place each time on each trigger, so it's a relative review So that one came in right at 4. That is super low. And like I said, I'm pulling low on that trigger. Okay, if I pull higher, it would definitely be higher on both. Try and get right the same spot. Okay. So as you can see, that one rolled up a little bit and it pulled almost at 5 pounds. And that just has to do with where the gauge is resting on the trigger. So again, get your finger as low as possible on the trigger and you will have the best pull weight. All right, so let's talk about some positives, some negatives, what's good, what's bad. You know, is there a preference between the two? And of course, you know, how they run out there on the range. Oh, buddy. So let's go ahead and talk about the goods and the bads here on the M&P. So there is some really good stuff going on with the M&P. One, the ergonomics. So much more of a flatter profile when it comes to that grip angle. You don't have that big Glock hump back here that a lot of people just don't like. And the grip texture. So the texture, that kind of sandpaper finish on the M&P is definitely one of the best finishes on that grip out there, in my opinion. Some have a little bit more aggressive, some have less, but it's definitely really nice. And the fact that it just goes all the way around that grip is definitely a huge positive. Now the trigger on the M&P is definitely solid. It's not the best, it's not the worst when it comes to the striker fired setup. And the last good thing about it is definitely going to be those mounting plates. They are definitely far more solid than the MOS plates, which are casted and everyone can see them flexing, especially if you have a screw that is just even the tiniest bit too long that came with your mounting plate or your RMR sealing plate or whatever you've got going on out there. Now, a couple things that are definitely not my favorite is that trigger guard. So like I said, I always find myself slipping over it like this and just butting up into the back of whatever light I have mounted onto it. And that just has a little bit to do with the size of my hand, but it also has to do with how it's just kind of swept up and forward. It just seems really slick, and it's just every time I really go to get a grip, I just start slipping forward. That's probably just a me thing, but that's definitely something to take into account, especially if you've got those bigger hands like that. Now, the only thing that comes up with the M&P is the slide stop, slide release. That goes all the way back to the version 1. It's definitely a little small, and it's definitely very stiff up front. It does loosen up over time, but even still out there now that I've got several hundred rounds for this thing, every once in a while I will sweep past that and just not engage it all the way to throw the slide forward, which is, you know, if you go over the top, you don't have to worry about that. But I'm generally using the slide stop and slide release to let that slide go back into battery. Now, what about those positives for this fella right here, the Gen 5 Glock 17 MOS? So it's not just Glock as usual. A couple good things going on here, one of which is going to be they got rid of the finger grooves, which I absolutely hated. That is a personal preference, but it's a positive for me. The integrated magwell is probably one of the coolest things in there because it just gives you more surface area. It's going to make you a little bit quicker if you don't index everything perfectly. Now, the trigger in the Gen 5 Glocks is definitely a little bit better, just how they redesigned everything in the trigger housing and how they've redesigned the striker block safety up in there. Makes it much nicer on the actual pull. And of course, it comes with the Glock brand and reliability and durability that we would expect out of the Glock. Now, what about a couple of those negatives for the Gen 5? First one's going to be the thing that everybody talks about, angles and ergonomics. It's pretty aggressive, so as you punch out, you may be a little high in the muzzle. You really got to force it down. The grip texture is just not the best. They could really probably do a lot better job, and that's the reason why a lot of people do aftermarket stippling on their grips, or they add something on there just to give it a little bit more grip. And then the last thing would be, it's still just a one-section accessory rail up there. With so many different lights and different things on the market, why not just give a couple of different slots up there for accessories, like pretty much what everybody else is doing? So other than those minor things for the two, some of which could be preference or personal feeling, both of these are going to be absolutely outstanding, and they're going to give you years of service and thousands of rounds of use out there, whether you're using it for work, fun, competition, or just a little bit of practice out there on the range. When it comes down to it, you need to get these things out there and test drive them for yourself. You wouldn't go buy a house without seeing it. You probably wouldn't go buy a car without sitting in the seat and taking it for a spin around the block. You need to do the same thing with either of these, whether it's just in the store dry firing or whether your buddy can actually get you out to the range with one, because buying something sight unseen or not having it in the hand might lead you down a road where you don't like what you got at the end of the day. Well, that is what I have for you today. I hope you liked learning about those two pistols. If you're looking at either one or just wanted to check something new out between the M&P 2.0 core and the Gen 5 Glock 17 MOS. There are reviews on both of those optics already up on the channel. You can check those out in my optics playlist down below. And the decision is yours, and it's up to you to see what you are most interested in and what you think is gonna fit you best. And again, a huge shout out to my Patreons and another channel sponsor, which is gonna be Blackout Coffee. If you're into getting caffeinated quick, fast, in a hurry, you can check them out at the link below. There's a coupon code for them as well as TC10, which you 10% off your entire purchase. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, turn the bell notification icons on, and of course, give the video a like if you feel that I deserved at any point in time, or if you like either of these things. So remember, if you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. I will see you guys on the next one. Oh, and if you guys were wondering which one I think is just a little bit better, it's gonna be this one right here, the M&P 2.0. Just fits in the hand a little better.